Hello and welcome to the Slingshot channel, or should I say double 10-toe channel?
That works for me.
We'll explain these beautiful new inventions to you right now. Stay tuned. Today, as you see, I have a guest. It's Marten Koning, which means the king.
In Dutch.
In this here, really, Marten invented this here. I mean, we then developed it further, but it was his original idea to come up with this beautiful hidden blade technology.
Jörg typically doesn't give himself enough credit because it's really a collaborative effort, but I appreciate that.
But it's the original idea is yours, so I really have to
Fair
give
enough.
you that credit. Insist on it.
Okay.
So, but anyway, what we're going to present to you today is the third iteration that he did. I mean, the first two iterations are mine. We started from this cheap-looking, cheesy little thing that still works, but of course it's made from wood and it's rather boxy. So
It was the perfect proof of concept.
right. So and then the way how the later prototypes work, so very much the same. You see, the blades look too long for the handles, and that's because they retract. And actually, I made a video comparing it to this Chinese double knife set that doesn't have the retraction and therefore has much shorter blades. And that video went viral. It now has like 3.3 million views and counting.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So it's really amazing. And today what we want to do is we want to present to you the new prototype, but also explain a little bit more about what's happening and addressing the issues that people had that commented to my video.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
So first, let's explain the technology a little bit so that people understand what we're talking about. Shall we?
Yeah,
So that is a beautiful piece now. It's 3D printed, right?
yeah.
From, what is the name of that material?
It's called alimide. It's printed with a process called selective laser sintering, SLS. And alimide is a combination of nylon with aluminium particles in it. The benefit that this offers over pure nylon is that it's a little bit more rigid, and it also more closely approximates the weight of aluminium. It's not exactly the same, but and it's also a bit harder. So when you finish it with sanding and whatever, it keeps its shape better than if it were purely.
And the big difference also is, of course, also how it's designed, because this was sketched from me with my hand and then sawed out of wood and put together, and aluminum, of course.
Very skillfully, by the way.
But of course rather amateurish, and this is of course based on a complete set of 3D
Yeah.
plans and everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this basically is ready for production, so you could make it in steel based on these plans pretty much immediately.
It is. It is designed with the intent to be producible with production processes that you would use for mass production. I do have to say that in terms of the tolerances and stuff, once they start going into production prototypes, they really have to, let's say, re-look at the tolerances to ensure that they are perfect for metal. I think I
course.
closely approximated them already in the files, which is why I had to sand this
Of course. yeah.
prototype pretty much before it was able to do what it does. But
Still,
it
it requires a
works
little bit
very-
of hand,
very nice.
you know, yeah. But I mean, it looks really, really professional, and it's very satisfying in the way how it works. And we'll explain this a little bit. So if I pull this apart, you see that it has two stages.
Yeah.
The first part basically draws out the blades from the inner part, right?
From their own grip.
From
Yes,
their own grip.
Yes,
And the second part removes it from the opposite handle.
exactly.
part.
Yeah.
So this is now opening up from the other side. And that's why the blade can be almost twice as long as the handle, just like maybe 1.5 millimeters less or something.
Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
so it almost doubles like the blade in length. And the blades are locked, so you can stab with it and everything. So they're locked in place and they won't collapse if you hit something with it. But they actually unlock the opposite blade when you push them together, so that they can close seamlessly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is not spring-loaded like many people say. It's
No.
not spring-loaded.
No.
There is no.
Which
there's-
would be illegal.
It would then actually it would be very questionable. But as you see, it's just muscle power that draws it out.
Yeah.
There's no spring inside. So this is actually a typical and legal two-handed opening folder.
Exactly.
So
It's
and
quite brilliant. I love
And
it.
of course, if you really want to know how it's designed internally, I can show you a little bit of similar comparable knives here, but also you should go to Marten's Instagram because he will then open it up for you and show you the inner workings.
Definitely.
I'm sure you want to know. So this is the Böker Slike, right?
Yeah.
So Slike, it means like it slides, and you like it. Maybe that's because why it's called Slike. I like the slide.
Yeah, makes sense.
Now, as you see, this is an out-the-front knife, but it's legal because it doesn't have a spring. So what it does have is this little piece here where you can push, and then it unlocks and you can open it, and there's a halfway position, which is very important. We come to this later. And then you can fully extend it, and then you can see that the blade completely comes out and the handle is hollow. That's basically how our knives are constructed as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Specifically Marten's version, mine is a little bit different. But the thing is that in ours, we're always at the half position. And this other half is in the sheath in the handle of the other knife.
Exactly.
It uses the handle of the other knife as a sheath.
Yeah.
So this is why you normally would poke out like this.
Yeah.
And if we then fully pull it out, it also withdraws this.
Yep.
So it actually withdraws this part first, and then it pulls it out from the other side.
Yep.
So it's done with the same kind of mechanism, this spring here, that locks it in place and unlocks it when you press on it. See here?
Yep.
Snaps in.
And actually, Jörg, you know this, but it's interesting to explain to the audience that the button that is used in the Slike to manually retract the blade in our design is actually created as a ramp, which is then engaged by the blade of the other opposing knife, which then disengages the lock and drags it back into its grip.
Right. So this works like, if we take another prototype that I'm currently working on as an example,
Yep.
and we pull this out here, what it would do is, when you close it, it would actually press down on this here. Right?
Exactly.
And then automatically shift it in like so. Yeah. See? I just shifted it in. This is exactly how it works.
I hope you didn't damage your beautiful prototype.
Well, I can always repaint it. Okay, so now let's come to a few critical points that people tried to say about it. We already said there's no spring inside.
Yes.
So people said it's spring-loaded, which is not the case. If you want to know for sure, they go to Marten's Instagram and you can see it from the inside.
We will show you.
Most people said the German one is actually crappy because it's not full tang, which is basically, well, it's true that it is not full tang, but it's not true that it's crappy. But they say that this is full tang, which I completely doubt, because look at where the center of gravity is on this knife. It's actually right, well, it's still not. It's right here. So there is no way that this is a full tang knife.
That's unlikely.
There's probably enough steel in here, maybe for 10 millimeters, maybe. It's not more than this. Doesn't make it a bad knife. It's more like a letter opener, I think. But it's not a full tang knife, so that's for sure. Otherwise, how can you sell this at $7.90 at AliExpress or Temu? So, talking about the tang here. So when we draw this out, there is obviously some kind of tang, and I would say that's probably 2 centimeters in here.
It's more actually. It's 22 at the moment.
22 millimeters of a tang.
Maybe even 27. I have to check.
Okay. All right.
And that's with, as we've created them now, with the maximum blade length that can appear. If we were to find out during the production process of more, let's say, closer to the finalized product examples that we need more, then we can always give it a little bit of less blade length to have more overlap should it be needed. But this is a 3D printed prototype, and it's already pretty decent in terms of its play. I feel confident that if we find the right production partner, which we will because we've been talking about it, that we can reach a precision that will be satisfying for everybody.
Well, first of all, let me say a few things about this. First of all, full tang knives are more solid than folding knives. That
Always.
by no means means that folding knives are necessarily weak.
No.
If it's well made and if the frame is completely steel and the joint is strong, they can take a lot of abuse. I mean, look at my Pocket-Chetty, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, I can cut a steel nail with that thing and it will still not move.
That's
And in a folding knife, you often have way less than 2 centimeters of a tang
Yep.
in it.
Yep.
So, and even this here, see how short the tang is. The tang here is maybe 12 millimeters, I would say. That doesn't make it an unstable knife because it's held well in place See these two screws here stabilize it within the carbon fiber frame. So this is very solid. And also look at a knife like my Hirschfänger that's going to hit the market in July. So if I open this one up, you can also see that the tang is really short. It ends about here. You can see it here, see? So the tang of this knife is also really short, but it's inside of a steel frame, so it will not definitely bend. So you can probably not use it as a pry bar, but I can tell you it can take a lot of abuse before it would actually break or give a little bit.
Definitely.
So, and then of course people say this because they looked at this and say this is cheap plastic and so on. No, 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 no. It's way cheaper than plastic. It's wood. It's cheap plywood, and they say the blade is totally dull. Yes, it's absolutely dull because this is not a steel blade. This is an aluminum blade, and it's only a prototype. So this will never be high-end because I don't really have the machinery to make a steel blade. So it was hard enough for me to make these from aluminum. And definitely it's only a prototype and proof of concept. Right. So here, of course, it's a little shaky, and this would definitely not be used as a pry bar because the wood would break here, right?
Exactly.
But in the final one, this will be steel, and then it will not break, believe me. I can guarantee, if it would break easily, I would not offer it for sale because I have a name and a reputation to lose. And I'm sure Martin does too. So if we sell it, then it will be substantial and very solid.
It's important to note that in any development process, you go through stages and iterations, and there are certain things that from your experience you know, there are other things that you just guesstimate, and it is when you reach those final stages where your product becomes closer to the final thing that you can start doing the tests, which you can't do yet with the prototypes that we currently have. Obviously, if we were to smash the wooden prototype or even the 3D printed prototype, which is alamide, against something really hard, it would break apart. But that's because of the materials, not because of the design.
Also, people say this is very slow opening versus this one here. And that is because I opened it slow. So this one, obviously, you can pull apart and put together in the blink of an eye. And it, oh, not cutting myself here. But for this one here, I opened it slowly to show you the two stages, stage 1 and then stage 2, which does not mean that I cannot make it also quicker, like so.
We also showed them at the beginning of the video.
Right. Yeah, and this one here is even more smooth because it's using a completely different lock technology. So this is very, very fast opening. And that's definitely not a disadvantage against the Temo design.
Definitely not. It's what they're intended for.
So the question, of course, is how would you wear a knife like this? And Martin figured that out as well. And you can see it right here on his chest, but that's only an example because this way to carry it also allows it to attach it to like your belt or anything. Right?
Yeah. So I have here the same piece. This is actually the holder that we designed for it. And this one has an interface which is well known for brands like Cytec and Ammomax. It has a interface which allows it to be mounted on things like a molly clip or a belt clip, even drop leg platforms if you want. And because of these tiny serrations that you see here, it's also possible, and this is a pivot point, it's also possible to mount this in any specific angle you like on those different platforms. So it's really, any use case you can think of, you can do. This one's printed in PET G. It was too stiff. I reprinted this one in a material called TPU, which is much more flexible. And I'll show you how easy it is to draw, right? And then put it back in. Snaps in place. You can jump around any way you want. If you push it like so, actually the device skews itself inside the holder and it doesn't come out. So there's no way to unpurposefully pull it out, but it's really easy to do it on purpose. What's also very nice about this holder is that once it's inside, you can't pull the blades apart anymore. Mm-hmm. Obviously, as soon as they come out.
So your opponent, if you want to steal it, you would have to take it off and not pull it apart.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. You would also probably not think that this is a knife.
No, it doesn't necessarily look like one. And you know, if that becomes a problem, we could always invent a new one with a specific clip that goes over the top that has even an extra level of security. But this one's really designed for the fastest deployment you can think of, and ease of use.
So this means that there are so many ways how you can carry this. And in Germany it would be legal to carry because it's a two-handed opener. So you can carry this, for example, on your belt. So you could carry this on your belt like so, or of course along your leg like so.
Yep.
You know, even on your backpack, or you know,
Yep.
or you know, on your backside. So you can carry it like this. So you can take it apart like this at any time.
Yep.
So you got a ton of options how you can possibly carry this, as long as we use this lock system, right?
Agreed.
So Martin, I think we are there. I think it's ready, so we can give it to Midgard so that they can actually make a product out of it.
I agree.
And I would actually not change a thing on it. I would just leave it exactly like this. Of course, maybe a different finish on this, but
I want to have a different finish. Yes, this is just the raw printed finish. Yeah, for sure.
and then I think it's time for us to introduce it to the market. Very exciting. So let us know in the comments. Would you want one? I mean, those can't be cheap because you get two knives. So it can't be super cheap, and it will definitely be a limited edition. That's for sure. And we're going to use high-end materials, and it will be top craftsmanship.
I wouldn't
Otherwise,
want
we wouldn't know.
nothing less.
Absolutely. So would you want one? I sure do, because I think this is one of the most, well, you know, most spectacular knife inventions that I've seen in a long, 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 long time.
We did well.
So we hope that you like this, because that's it for today. Thanks and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.